everyone. It is Keeping It Real with Niki and Jim today.
Good afternoon. Great to be with you again.
It's a Happy New Year. It's
It
our
is
first.
Happy
This is
New
our
Year.
first one. Yeah, it is the first one of the new year.
Yeah.
We're on episode 5, and we're talking about buyers and the buyer process. And we're getting ready to move forward today. What are we talking about today, Jim?
So we're talking about closing costs. And I remember when I bought my first house, I didn't know anything about that. And all of a sudden, it wasn't just a down payment, but it was also closing costs.
It's
And
closing
we're going to
costs,
kind of go
and it's earnest money. We have earnest money,
and
and we
earnest money.
have
Yeah.
we have the cost of like home inspections and appraisal fees. So we got a lot to talk about today, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what should we
So,
dive in and start talking about earnest money? Because that's kind of one of the first things that, when you start putting in a offer that, your broker will start asking you about is how much you want to do for earnest money. Should we talk about that?
yeah, I think
Actually,
that would be a good
we're going to
place to
visit from
start.
Carrie today too. Shall we talk to Carrie and hear about what the rates are before we start? Before we
Yeah, is
dive
she
in?
on?
Yeah.
Oh, there
There's
she
Carrie
is.
Selby with Fairway. Hey, Carrie, welcome. Oh, we can't hear you. I think you're
Oh,
muted. Oops. I don't know where we lost her. I don't know what happened. All right, we'll give her just a minute to come back. So yeah, we'll have her jump in and tell us about kind of what the market's doing as far as the mortgage interest rates. So we'll jump in and have her jump in and do that because I know she's got a busy schedule today. And then we'll jump in and talk about the earnest money and closing costs and your home inspection. Not like in detail with home inspection, but just kind of the cost and kind of what to expect there, and then appraisal fee too. Actually, maybe we can let
okay.
Carrie talk about the appraisal fee. So
Okay, great.
this is it.
Why don't you start off with the earnest money when somebody,
Well,
um,
let's let Carrie jump in first because she's here. Is your sound working and your stuff working? Nope. Are
oh,
you
still can't
muted
hear you.
somehow? Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Nope, it doesn't do that. And nope, you shouldn't be. Huh, how bizarre.
By the way, Carrie is from Fairway Mortgage. She's a loan officer there. And so she has been helping us in the latest videos with information about different types of loans. And so it's been very helpful. So,
Yeah. Well, give Carrie a few minutes to see if she can figure out her sound. And so we'll talk about, I guess we'll go ahead and, like you said, talk about earnest money. So earnest money, what is earnest money? Do you want to cover the definition and what it's for?
well, earnest money is, in my mind, to say that you're serious about buying the house. It's kind of um, so it's money that you put up front to say that you are invested in this purchase. And so after you sign the purchase and sale agreement, there's an earnest money that you would put on it. It's something that an amount. And how much would you say, Niki, earnest money generally?
Generally, it's about one to one
As
and
a
a
part
half
of the,
percent. Yeah,
okay, so
generally they put down it's about 1.5%, and really it's consideration. You're giving consideration for the seller to take their home off the market while you're getting your financing and that kind of stuff together, and you're, like you said, you're making a commitment to this house. So, in some markets, though, that doesn't apply. I mean, like the market we were in, a year ago, the more earnest money you put down was better because I mean, if somebody put $5,000 down and somebody put $10,000 down, obviously the person who put $10,000 is putting more of a risk as far as like, I'm not going to walk away from it. So,
yeah, exactly. The market
mhm.
we just came out of was so competitive that there was multiple offers on homes. So any way you could make your offer look better, um, was a benefit. Is she on yet?
She is. She's on. I just took her off so she can kind of get that figured out, and I'll add her when she's
Oh,
ready.
gotcha.
I think she can still hear us, so we're good. Um, maybe not. Okay. Hey, Carrie, private message me when you're on, and we'll see. Oh, you did. Thank you, hun. Okay. Let me know when you get on, and we'll get you hooked up. She's working on her sound still. So, she's going to send me a message when she's ready. So anyway, yeah, so that's earnest money. And the other thing about earnest money too is if you go over $10,000 in earnest money, and there's normally most people don't need to do that, so it's kind of a mute point for most people. I mean, usually it's kind of up to 10,000, but once you put it over 10, then there's like it has its own account, its own escrow account that it's tracked a little differently than under 10,000. So talk to your broker if you want more information on it. Like I said, for most people, it doesn't matter because most people are only going to put, 1.5%. Most houses aren't quite over that amount. So for the average person, 10,000 is probably your very maximum, but it could be more depending on, you. Okay. So let's talk closing costs.
Okay. So one is the appraisal fee that's going to be required by the bank that you're doing the loan from. They want to know that house is in, good order, good condition. They want to know that the value, the amount that you're paying for the house is legitimate.
Right.
And so the professional appraiser is one that will do that. Is she on?
Yes, she is on. Hi, Carrie.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank
Yay!
you.
I had my tech guru come in and check everything out for me.
Perfect. So we were talking about closing costs now a little bit. We talked about earnest money and how that was, like you put it down as consideration. And now we've moved ahead to closing costs a little bit. We're talking about costs of besides the down payment, because that's kind of the the big one most people think about, but then they don't realize there's usually closing costs. And Jim, you're talking about the appraisal part of it. And so the difference between an appraisal and a home inspection is that the home inspection, it's for the buyer. And so there's a cost for that too. So typically they're like around the 500, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And we'll get into home inspections in one of the next 2 episodes probably. And we're going to actually have a home inspector come in and talk to us. But that one is for the buyer. I mean, that one is the one that, the buyer pays for, and it's for their information. The appraisal, the buyer also pays for, but it's for the bank. It's for the bank to get the value of what the home's worth and to make sure that the bank's making a good investment. So, hey, actually, Carrie, since you're on here, I know that there's some, like, a lot of times, like with the costs and stuff like that, loans can't pay for them. How am I trying to say this? I know that the buyer can pay money out of pocket, or pays out of pocket for that. Can you explain that process to us a little bit? Would you mind?
Definitely. When we go through the pre-approval process, I talk to people about what is paid for inside the loan and what would need to be paid for outside the loan. So the home inspection is paid for outside the loan. Mm-hmm. As a lender, I don't want to see your inspection. Like you said, it's for you only. It's for your buyer to make sure that it's a sound investment. An appraisal for most companies, particularly for mine, is going to be paid inside the loan. So it will be part of your closing costs. You are 100% correct on that.
Okay, perfect. So do you guys, but the buyer ends up paying for it anyway, essentially, but
yes.
It can be included as part of their fees and stuff, right?
Correct. Okay. And that's when I do fees for people, the appraisal, I do a whole itemized fee worksheet that breaks down everything that you have to pay for closing costs. And that will be something that's included in those. And just percentage wise.
I know that some are more, some are less, but aren't they kind of like about 1,000 now?
About 900 plus an appraisal, the admin fee, because we are not allowed to select the appraisers that we use. We use a third-party company, so they have a fee as well. So it generally does add up to about $1,000.
Okay, perfect. Great. And then we have other closing costs. And so typically closing costs in a whole are probably between 2.5% to about 3% of what the purchase price of the home is. And it varies a lot depending on the type of loans. Again, I know like these a lot of times are a little bit less because they can have things paid for them. So I think sometimes they can be a little bit less, but typically it's about 2.5% to 3%. And Jim, do you want to talk about what are some of the other things that are included in the closing costs?
Well, credit reports would be one that everybody needs to have to make sure they're credit worthy. And so I don't know about what those are costing right now. Carrie?
About $50.
Do you know about what those are?
50, yeah.
about $50.
Mhm.
Then an origination fee. Do you want to explain just an origination fee?
Every place that you go to is going to have some type of fee. Some actually credit unions don't always charge an origination fee, but a lot of companies charge 1% of the loan amount. We have a fixed fee. So without going, I mean, we have a fixed fee, an underwriting fee, and a processing fee. So in total, it's about $1,600.
And then
Okay.
after that, then you also have your title and your escrow fees. And so with the buyers, you're paying for your lender's part of the fees for sure. And then each of the buyer and the seller pays their own part, their own half of the escrow and the title fees. So that's split pretty much equally between the two parties.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really equals about 2.5 to 3%, which is, so when you're doing your numbers, when you're buying a home, you're trying to figure out how much money do I have to have down, your closing costs, 2.5 to 3%. That's typically what you want to do. Unless of course you have like your down payment assistant program, which we talked about last week with Carrie, or was it 2 weeks ago? Sorry. But when we talked to her about that, where some of those costs are covered. And so, you might be bringing less to the table than that. But, for a conventional loan or, a lot of your really basic loans and stuff like that, that's typically what the costs are. Okay.
And then there's a couple, Carrie, that maybe you can explain this just in a simple way, but there's a couple of the prorated ones like interest and property taxes.
You are correct. So based on the day that you close, you're going to accrue interest. So everything will fluctuate. There's a per day interest rate that we factor in. And so depending on how many days you have left in the month will be multiplied by that number. And a lot of that depends on your interest rate as well. So it's going to change from loan to loan depending on your interest rate. And then your escrow is going to have impounds. So that will also be part of your closing costs, where we're collecting 1 full year of homeowners insurance plus an additional 3 months. And then depending on when you close, once again, taxes are due in April and October. And so depending on how close you are to those dates will depend on how many days or how many months worth of escrow impounds we need for your property taxes. And people get freaked out when they get a tax statement in the mail, but it is not for you to pay. It is part of your escrow account. So just make note of that.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
remember when I
thank you
got
for
my
bringing up.
first
That
one.
was exactly what I was going to say too. We needed that escrow fee in there. And then actually we just got a comment from Norma. Norma was curious what the mortgage rates right now. I mean, I know you can't give us an exact rate because it affects all people differently, like we talked about in one of our first episodes, where it just kind of depends on your credit and job history and all that good stuff that they kind of pull them together. But how is that looking out in the market right now? I know I'm kind of jumping ahead. Sorry, Jim, but I want to make sure I address the question.
Oh, you're good.
Of course. Well, actually, we're seeing a lot of positivity in the market right now. This morning, all numbers were green, which we haven't seen in a long time. So rates are improving, but we are not seeing really drastic changes in the rates. So we're still sitting, and depending on credit score, debt to income ratio, loan to value, we're still sitting around between 6.5% and 7%.
And I've been seeing that too, with my listings and stuff. I know that, it kind of slowed down, and I might have been Christmas a little bit, but it's been picking up again. I think a lot of the buyers at first, when they saw, the rates go from like 3 to 5 to 6 to 7, hitting almost 8, is almost up there, almost to 8. I mean, everybody kind of freaked out, but now they're realizing, what, they're not really going to come way back down to the 2 and 3. And so maybe this is our new normal again. And so I do see a lot more buyers coming on the market and jumping in. So great question, Norma. Thank you very much for jumping on and doing that today. And then the other thing that we need to talk about too, going forward, is we've had some changes with how buyers' brokers' fees are paid. And, in the past, it's always been kind of a seller paid, and, the listing broker would sit down with the seller and say, okay, so, what do you want to offer to the buyer's broker? But it's been kind of changing a little bit. The sellers are saying, why should we pay for the buyer's brokers? I mean, some still do. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense on why you would, because, you want the other side to bring in buyers to you. And if you're not offering them anything, they might not. Plus, a lot of people, as Carrie will probably agree with me here, they have a lot of credit, but they don't have the cash. And so typically a lot of buyers can't pay. I mean, they're paying 2.5 to 3% down on they're paying their down payment. they don't have enough cash to do that. So sometimes it's an incentive for the, for the seller to offer the buyers to pay for that amount. And sometimes they're, doing a higher rate, and sometimes they're doing a lower rate. And we can't say what our rates are because each individual brokers is different. But, but sometimes it's not guaranteed. And so, buyers may or may not, it can be negotiated out with your brokers, but it's not always guaranteed. So, again, you might be paying some buyer broker commission. And that's kind of a new thing that we're starting to see a little bit more of. I don't know. We'll have to wait and kind of see how that plays out. But that's kind of the trend right now, what's happening on that side of it too.
It is. And it's interesting that it's right now, it's only in the state of Washington that this is happening.
Right.
So you don't realize it. But one way around it is to also see if you can maybe increase the sales price of the home a little bit so it does get paid out of the seller's portion. There are ways around it, especially if you don't have the funds to close. As long as the home appraises for what the sales price is, the list price, often you can just increase the sales price a little bit to make concession for that as well.
Right. So I'm kind of curious how that's going to play out. I mean, I know, I'm just kind of curious because we've had, not in the last couple of years, but prior to that, a lot of the sellers would pay like closing cost concessions. And so they would pay for the buyer's closing costs, which wraps it into the loan, by offering a little bit higher. And, like you said, that appraisal thing is still a huge thing. And so, it has to appraise, it has to make sense with what's happening out in the rest of the market. So, if you're adding that plus buyer brokers, it's going to be an interesting situation, I think, on how that's going to all play out and all work out.
For
So
sure.
I would say, buyers, save your money and try to have as much of that as you can. Bonus, you don't have to spend it. But yeah, you could be spending, definitely the closing cost, 2.5% to 3%. Possibly your buyer's commissions, and then you've got your home inspection fee and sometimes the appraisal fee, depending on how it works out for you. So
all great points.
Yeah, busy day though, huh? We had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I think it is a lot of information, but I think that when you go through the process with Carrie or with a loan officer, all of this will be really explained. And I think even the buyer's broker's commission, I think one of the reasons that they're doing what they're doing is so there's transparency. And I think what we would be doing, Niki and I as realtors, is making sure that we're open up front about what that is and exactly what you're paying. So I think that's important, that whoever you work with is honest and open and upfront. So you're not just signing at the end and then it's sprung on you what some of the costs are.
No, there's a big process. And I know that I do that a lot of times with my buyers, like, this is what it would look like if you're buying it, at this rate and stuff. But a lot of times they already kind of know, but
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
And then definitely meeting with the lender to confirm those numbers.
Definitely transparency is key, because
For
purchasing a home is daunting enough for a lot of people. But our jobs as real estate professionals and as mortgage lenders are just to give people hope and give them clarity and let them know it is achievable. There's a way around a lot of things. So we just have to give as much information as we can so people can make the best educated decision.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Great. All right. So that really kind of ties us up for today. So, hey, just curious, Jim, what's your New Year's resolution?
Oh,
Zinger. What are you working on?
I don't often have New Year's resolutions. Sometimes I think New Year's resolutions is because you're unhappy with something in your life. You don't like the way you look. You don't like what you weigh. You don't like, it almost is a negative connotation. I'm doing something because I don't like something. And what I would say is this year, what do you like about yourself? Be kind to yourself.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Some
Yeah.
things I think are based out of negativity and lack of satisfaction.
I love that.
True. So I'm going to do more paddleboarding.
There you go. More kayaking. I will do that.
Paddleboarding. Yes, both.
I like
Very
that
good
about
you.
me.
I know, right?
My goal is definitely to be more connected to people. I have a tendency just to be inside my own little bubble and not always reach out to people. And that's really a disservice to me. And it's a disservice to the people that I love and admire. And it's just important just to even drop a message to say, hey, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
That's so
And
good.
often I just find myself in a whirlwind, but we're never too busy to let people know how we feel and that we're thinking of others.
Nice. Very good.
Very
You guys
good.
have such good ones. I have to I'm still in my planning stages. I know that, I definitely have some really hefty goals this year and I can't wait to accomplish them all. And I'm working really hard to do that. So, but yeah, definitely, you need your team and your support group with around you. So yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
And you are two of them. I'm so appreciative of both of you.
Appreciate you too, Jim. You're such a light of positivity and you bring so much warmth and also wisdom to everything that you do. So I appreciate both of you having me on. And it's amazing how business relationships can just develop into friendships with people.
Really,
and I think that's where I want to take things, is the next level with people and get more connected in that way.
Yeah, that's so good.
I agree. All right, you guys have a wonderful day. And thank y'all for joining us on Keeping It Real with Jim and Niki.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.